This call up, I mean, your progeny are going to hate you in case you knew approximately this and you did not buy it. I imply they're just going to definitely hate you, and they're going to assume you are a legend in case you realize sacrificed and did not purchase that high-priced car and acquired a whole coin as a substitute, because that complete coin is going to be well worth $10 million. You recognize. Now, not that a ways out through the way. I don't assume everybody's neglected the boat. I assume we are nevertheless very lots in the early days, and it is going to 10x, and it is going to 10x again. So from making an investment point of view, you do not want to miss something. This is going to pass up 100x, and you realize perhaps 1000x in case you understand. Communicate 15 to 20 years out. You know, in fact, one goes to be a significant quantity to have. I imply it is being an entire coiter is going to be in considerable deal in a few years. And so I do not suppose you missed the boat. It can pop out of the blue. I imply we all realize how this component occurs. And the issue that is so wild about this asset is the way that it could sincerely flow and move fast. And it's why I say, like the hedge finances, which have briefed these items, they're approximately to have a deeply spiritual enjoy. I imply they do not understand. They do not recognize that this could go up. A 50, 100, 150% in months. You're going to see the one short's going to get blanketed so goddamn speedy. You recognize I'm difficult pressed to see how we are now not at 100K by means of the stop of calendar 24. And I assume this cycle takes us to 200 or 300K. I'm pretty indignant about how visible my United States crossed downhill. I suggest America was an excellent region post-World War II. I imply it clearly was. You recognize, when I compare the America of my children to the America of these days, heartbroken. I mean, it is sad you recognize what's took place. And frankly, I think fiat cash is the motive of that. Today, we have an in-depth interview to go through with you guys with a super funding supervisor who referred to as the net.com bubble properly before it took place. Also a person who made a splendid amount of money within the 2007 and 2008 financial disaster, somebody who understands the fiat structures, the inventory markets, and air better than pretty tons every other investor out there. This is Larry Lepard, and he is very bullish on cryptocurrency within the future. He talks a lot approximately Bitcoin. However, he additionally makes a few really solid points that practice to XRP and why I suppose XRP goes to be completely taking over the monetary gadget a lot faster than Bitcoin ever could. So with that being said, ensure you hit that like button so each person within the XRP army does see this video and allows us to get right on into it. So first things first, I need to go over a clip that talks about debt and the ability to collapse of the entire monetary system due to the fact this truly paints a photograph as to why cryptocurrency is clearly lots more critical than lots of you probably do realize, and nicely. Also why XRP is posed to honestly explode with the gadget that we're in as a proper now. So I need you men to pay attention very intently because this is revolutionary. I do not understand where all of it ends. Where does this debt spiral, like, do we see a huge blow up, and is it in 10 years? Is it in 2 decades? Or can they? Yeah, I do not recognize. How do you foresee this ending? Do you spot a large blow up, do you?
Yeah.
So you've asked the $64,000,000 question that simply none people have an answer to, and it's extraordinarily tough to sport it out. And to know I imply appearance to begin with, nobody knows. Okay, it's all just a remember of possibilities. I mean, let's see some matters we do recognize. We do know that nations that have behaved the manner America has behaved, I imply we recognize this from Reinhardt and Rogoff's paper, have normally ended up with debt crises, which both approach that the debt becomes worthless or that there's excessive inflation or hyperinflation. And so the debt turning into worthless is type of a monetary collapse where the debt cannot be repaid. And so it becomes nugatory in a deflationary way. Or the debt turns into nugatory because the economic authority decides we're going to make all your claims cash suitable, and the way we are going to do, it's far just by way of walking the printing press. And so, you know, it's why Mar or Venezuela, and so after which there are iterations among the ones extremes, you ought to maybe just have a completely high length of inflation during which GDP might develop at it for a few reasons. By some means, you may suppress the growth in the debt you recognize. You would get again to a greater balance. There has been no debt to GDP US. There may be approximately 125% of debt to GDP popping out of global struggle to changing into about 130% due to the fact we spent a ton of cash to win the war. What they did in that example became, you already know they truly put in monetary repression, and that they had yield curve control on the bond market. And so the bond marketplace got, you already know, robbed of, because we've got pretty excessive inflation within the early 50s and 60s, and bonds failed to pay for it. But we additionally had a much uniqueness of again then, because you had everyone coming back from the war and buying motors and buying houses, and you know the Ben Avey boomers armed up. The hero era of global struggle turned into young, and they have been pretty much to create a ton of babies, which became demographically going to create a ton of growth, and so we type of quote-unquote earned our way out of it. You already know we do not have that these days. You already know we failed to just win a war, and you know the total wars are now vintage, and they're surely now not contributing to society. They're taking away from society with the aid of, you recognize, claiming their social protection and Medicare blessings. That's part of the purpose why the authorities is out. You already know government finances are so broken up. So you understand it's extraordinarily difficult to know, but I suppose that we will assume there's several matters. I do recognize one, they ought to print more money. In any other case, the gadget will collapse, after which I strongly trust that they will print extra cash because they do not want the gadget to crumble. And as awful as inflation is, it is regarded as a lesser evil than having the system crumble. I mean, an ideal example is in 2008, Henry Paulson went to, Nancy Pelosi and stated, you bought to give us TARP. In any other case, the ATMs are not going to paintings. I suggest this is the sport that you already know the Federal Reserve criminals usually, and banks and criminals always use. I mean, look, in 1913, after they set up the Fed, they basically created a gadget of heads we win, tails you lose, due to the fact they get to gamble with the human beings' money, and they get to take a ton of chance. And all these guys in 2008 made a ton of money, and then once they were incorrect, you realize they got bailed out. I mean, if it became capitalism, they all should have failed. You understand, I imply Lloyd Blackfriar. I used to be on Twitter keeping forth on all types of topics, and I used to answer to him and say, close the fuck up. You recognize you have to be bankrupt. The authorities bailed you out, and he got off of Twitter. You realize there may be surely a lot of you recognize rumbling around, about, they're honestly looking to start a battle. You realize COVID was a pleasant distraction, allowed them to print a number of cash. And we simply understand that the following huge print is going to come. And sooner or later in time, what is going to manifest here is that everybody's going to wake up and go, you already know we're in a situation where they're in no way going with a view to prevent printing. And this is going to be sort of a Gresham's law form of moment. And at that factor in time, humans are going to desert the existence of forex devices of the dollar, and they are going to run like crazy into matters that can't be revealed. First, I simply have to commend Larry Lepard for explaining this phenomena in such extraordinary detail. I have a lot recognized for this man or woman due to the fact for the duration of his complete career, he has stood as much as the corrupt Fed, the Wall Avenue bankers, some of these terrible people which have been liable for perpetuating the problems that we've in our present-day fiat device. And a path similar to myself. When Larry Lepard saw cryptocurrency, he jumped on the possibility to get concerned in it. Why? Because he realized it was a strategy to all of these problems. If you've got self-custody, those banks will never be able to abuse you once more. And that, my pals, is certainly lovely and precisely what we all absolutely want on the cease of the day. And so with that being stated, yes, Larry Lepard is great, is so focused on Bitcoin. And concentrate, I completely apprehend why this is. It's the primary cryptocurrency obtainable. It's the one that started, honestly, the whole lot. And he, frankly, would not have a first-rate amount of time to dive deeper into crypto due to the fact he has numerous other things occurring with gold and Bitcoin and silver, with all the large investment companies that he's strolling himself or with his partners. And so with that during mind, I assume that he does miss XRP. I do think he does miss it. He does not virtually apprehend why XRP is a better solution than Bitcoin. I mean, you look at it from each unmarried foundational angle, the transaction instances, the time to finality, the community load, the truth that it is extra carbon neutral. It doesn't must have a gaggle of miners to operate to validate transactions which have